Good day, students. So we are going to continue from where we stopped on statistics in our last class, and we are still going to work on measures of central tendency and range. By the end of today's lesson, we believe that you should be able to determine mean, median, and mode for both discrete and distribution. Also, you should be able to determine range for both discrete and distribution. Today, we have examples that we are going to use to analyze our data. For discrete, mathematics calls for 6 students. For on-group data, mathematics test calls for SSS3 students. We have the table, and grouped data, the height of 100 students measured in centimeters. So we are going to use these 3 different examples to analyze our data. Now, to start with, we've talked about mean in our previous lesson. We've talked about the formula to determine mean and average. But today, before we move to median, I want to talk about when we are dealing with grouped data, how to determine the mid value or mid mark in group data. For instance, under on group data, we have our X, but in this case, we have group. So to avoid any form of biasness, we use this formula to determine our X. That is, the X you have here. X is equal to lower class limit plus upper class limit divided by 2. If you look at the first group, 150 is the lower class limit, while 140 is the upper class limit. So if we add these two together, we have 304. That is 150 plus 154 divided by 2. This will give us 152. That is how we arrive at this 152 for the first class. So we can continue with this method to get for the second, third, and so on and so forth. Also, we need to talk about class boundary when we are talking about a class interval. Now, how do we get this lower class boundary? The lower class boundary is equal to lower class limit minus 0.5. If you subtract 0.5 from 150, we will have 149.5. And if we add 0.5 to upper class limit, we will have 154.5. And that is how we will determine upper and lower class boundary. Upper class boundary and lower class boundary for the remaining groups. Now, let us move to median. Median is the middle samples after arranging samples in ascending or descending order. So, but the most important is when we want to calculate median for group data. Here is the formula. Now, to calculate median for group data, we have lower class boundary of the median class plus into brackets total frequency divided by 2 minus the sum of all frequencies before median class. Take note of that. Then over the frequency of the median class. Then we close the bracket, multiply by class width. Take note of that. That C we have there is the class width. So we are going to solve some questions related to this formula in our Google Classroom. Now the next one we have under the central tendency is mode. And mode is the sample that occurred most in a data. That is for discrete. Or the sample with the highest frequency in the frequency table for distribution. Now, when we are dealing with group data also, for us to calculate mode in group data, we have this formula again. This is lower class boundary for the modern class into bracket the frequency of the modern class minus the frequency before the class. Then we have this formula, and we are going to solve more questions. Also, we are going to solve questions related to this formula in Google Classroom. Finally, we have range. Take note, range is not one of the measures of determining central tendency. Rather, range is one of the measures of determining dispersion. Now, when you are talking about range, range is the highest minus lowest. That is the difference between the highest sample and the lowest sample. Now, before we go into Google Classroom, I will want to talk about how to get range for group data. How we can get our range for group data. For instance, look at this example now. What will be the range of this question? The range is always, take note, the lowest sample and the highest in the group. Take note of these two. For this example now, our range will be 174 minus 150, which will give us 24. Not the difference between the highest and the lowest class mark, but the highest sample in the class interval and the lowest sample. So let us go into Google Classroom to solve examples on all the formulas we've discussed here this morning. Thank you.